All right.
All right, calling to order Economic Development Committee meeting for Smithville, May 22nd at 6 p.m.
And we'll do roll call. Alicia Neth.
Here.
Right. Adam Royds is in attendance virtually. Steve Langley,
Here.
John Wallace,
Here.
Carol Noker,
Here.
Erica Winston,
Here.
Dan Hartman,
Here.
and Pat Lewis.
All right, minutes from the April 24th meeting. If somebody wants to make a motion to approve those.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion to approve the minutes from our April 24th meeting.
And I get a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Approved.
And reports. First up, Chamber.
Okay. New members this last month, oops, sorry, are Between the Buoys, Wizard Lock Service, the Wasaka Agency, Town Square Publications, and Grassroots Garden Lounge.
Yay.
The after hours that we have coming up, we have one tomorrow night from 5 to 7 at Terrace Park. Everyone's welcome to join us. The multi-chamber is scheduled, after hours is scheduled for June 13th from 4 to 6. We did fill the original 100 tickets like within the first week, but we do have standby tickets. So if the weather is nice, we can still invite you up. So we're waiting on the weather. Pray we get good weather. Rise and Shine. The next one is June 5th at Smithville Bible Church. Our next luncheon is June 12th. And then the barbecue bash, the mystery category is going to be beans and beans, baked beans or smoked beans. So registration is now open for anybody who wants to participate in that. And then we did send out a announcement that Town Square Publications will be doing our 2025 Chamber Guide. So all of our members should be contacted by Wayne Metcalf in case you wanted to do some extra advertising or anything in there. So if you see that email, it is real. We have given them permission. So
Good to know.
so yeah, and I think that's it.
All right. And school district report.
School's almost out. Friday is half day, our last day of school. I feel like we're all just racing to the finish line. Still a lot of work going on. I think kids are ready to be done. Just a few updates as far as the district. I don't have much. A lot of the construction projects are on schedule. The high school gym, they've started work on that. The transportation facility is looking really good. I don't know if you guys have been by there, but now it's nice to be able to see, see what you can kind of see what it's going to look like. And then the middle school activity field, that's nearly complete as well. We are currently working on, at least for the real world learning program, I'm putting together internships. As word has gotten out, of course, students are learning about it and starting to see the benefit of it. We're starting to get more requests. So we've kind of shifted from seeking internships and then trying to match a student with it. The students are coming to me and asking for specific type internships. So I'm looking for someone to work with a student who's interested in auto mechanics. What else? I've actually been placing one that's interested in the medical field, and I'm looking for another that's interested in that, and construction management is another one that that we're looking for. So I will continue to send out emails for those as those come up, and I'll continue to work on that throughout the summer because those will start in August. And we're also working on some, we haven't really solidified anything just yet, but we have what we call warrior time. It's an advisory time, and we're making some changes there. I'm really looking at helping students kind of lean into their career interests. So as we get that kind of shored up, but I'm working on data right now for that, as well as our market value assets data and how we are doing as far as providing those experiences for students. Looks like we're going to be on track. I've still got a couple different areas that I'm waiting for data before I can finalize those numbers, and I'll get those to the board. Those should hopefully be ready by the next board meeting for that announcement. So as far as where we are on those. But yeah, it's exciting. Everybody's again racing to the finish line, but it's exciting since we're nearing the end of the school year.
Did I hear you say you don't get to take summer off, or you do?
I actually do. I'm on a 9-month contract, but I do have extra contract days during the
That's what I
summer.
wondered.
So I am learning how to schedule my time because it feels like I have the summer off, but wait, I do have a ton of work I need to get done. So it kind of feels like I'm always working.
Yeah.
So this year I'm trying to set aside purely work days, purely non-work days. So we'll see how that goes.
That'd be the challenge.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot to do. There really is.
Definitely keep us posted on Warrior time. I'm really interested in that.
Yeah.
Know more.
And it's a short period of time and it's
Mhm.
used, for catching students up if they need, there are a lot of different things that go into that time frame, but it hasn't been as organized as we would like. So, but kind of the career interest
Yeah.
aspect of it is something that will be new, and we're kind of I've talked to other districts and they've talked about doing it,
Mhm.
but they haven't yet. So we'll be others will be interested in what we're doing if it works out. So
I think
Yeah.
sounds
I'll
awesome.
keep you posted.
All right, and then chairwoman's report.
Yes, lots of new businesses in town opening this summer. Really excited about that. Most of them I think are public online or have made posts. We had our Smithville Main Street District Retreat Monday. Mayor Boley hosted that, and we really trying to work on honing in on some family-friendly events on the square. For the summer specifically. We also talked about ideas for the River Walk once that gets started. Farmers Market started first week of May, right? And it seems to be going really well. And then there's Bounce Fest this weekend. I started listing off all of the upcoming events in town, and there were too many to list, but Bounce Fest is this weekend, the 25th and 26th on the square, and it looks like it's going to be really awesome. A lot of inflatables and I think a couple food trucks and some other things. So really excited about all of it. That's all I have.
All right, and then staff report. Most of my report is kind of to help our discussion items later this evening. But the big update I wanted to share is we have our printed marketing that is handed out to visitors of Smith's Fork, and we have it located at different places in Paradise as well. We have it at City Hall, and I know the mayor has passed it out to businesses. I'm going to hand a stack to Erica after this meeting, but I wanted to go ahead and pass it around so you could see the final version. And that's really all I have. The rest of my materials is replica and then continuation of our ADC goals.
Would you have one of these that we could each get a copy?
Yeah, you can honestly take some off of this stack.
Yeah, I'd love some. I haven't received any of
Mhm.
them yet.
Yeah, and we kept it. The last version I showed of like the draft version, we had some specific businesses listed. And we figured it would be easier since a lot of new businesses are coming online. We would just have the QR code and kind of leave it more of like, hey, scan this and you'll be able to find it. So,
That's great.
all right. And then there aren't any other questions. I'm going to share my screen so I can review some of this replica information. Okay. Any questions on the staff report? Okay. So the first discussion item we have is just reviewing of the visitor data from replica. Visitor data is a little bit more complicated to show in like a PowerPoint form. There's just a lot of information. But I really wanted to highlight, and I think this gets into our discussion for EDC goals of marketing in general, and attracting businesses. The main reason people are coming to Smithville is to return home on Thursdays, and typical Thursday and Saturday. We don't have a big work population. School, obviously that's gonna drop off on Saturdays. Eat, is pretty low, but we do see a bump in shopping, and just a reminder that includes groceries and gas stations, but it's a good to see that as a pretty high, especially like getting close to 20% up here. And we also have our social category. Recreation, again, I'm very surprised it's so low, but it's also probably because our Smithville Lake is in the county. So we're not capturing that data for the city limits. And then lodging, we see a little bit of an uptick, but really pretty low. And then commercial freight going through town. I mean, we have 169, so we're gonna see that. But just wanted to highlight, again, as we go into the South Overlay District discussion, when the consultant is selected and they come to these meetings, these are the kind of areas that we're gonna be looking at of like, hey, we wanna see people working here. We wanna see more opportunities for restaurants and shops. So those are the kinds of things that we would be talking about. And just highlights of the majority of people visiting Smithville are Smithville residents. After that, Kansas City, Missouri, that's the next one, and then Liberty, and really it's kind of staggered throughout the different surroundings in the metro. So I think using data to help businesses attract people and start getting more messaging to their targeted audiences. I'm working with Erica to start helping the chamber use more of this data. So really, Replica is interesting because with their trend information, they're actually replicating the data. It's not real-time data. So this can kind of give us a sense of where the story is, but it's not obviously the full picture.
Can you remind me
Yeah.
exactly how and when this data is collected?
Yes, so they basically, it's like geo mining with the phones. And
Okay.
then with their trend data, it typically comes out 2 quarters later. So right now, we're just now getting the fall 2023 data. So it's a little backlogged in the actual trends. So I'd like to get a little bit, we're exploring some other opportunities for replacement, potentially for Replica, because basically the Clay County Managers Group, they're not really interested in renewing the contract with Replica because we're not getting fully of what we expected to get. So we're looking at other alternatives to see if we can get something better for us to use and share with our businesses.
I'm just thinking, knowing that the district is,
Mhm.
one of the biggest employers.
Right.
And knowing that the cost of housing here is higher, there are some teachers that, a decent number of teachers that drive in. And I'm just wondering how, if they're just going to the district and coming and then leaving, if they're not going anywhere else, there's
Right.
some opportunities there, I
Right.
think.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
Gina, I was interested in the lodging. Is that, obviously, we don't have a lot of hotels. We have one, but what's interesting is we have, I believe we have somewhere between probably 6 and 12 Airbnbs,
Mhm.
a variety. And I'm wondering if Replica catches any of that from the Airbnb, and or if we could get, I think one of our members of planning and zoning is a manager, a property manager for those, and it'd be interesting sometime to get his insight on that data, because we have one, and I kind of see that the majority of it's booked by Airbnb, And it'd be interesting to see if Rob had any data that he could share, not necessarily giving away who the guests were, but just the purpose of the trip, the intent. Because we see variations from visitors for the wedding venue to like this week, we know we're hosting some folks from work. They're here all week for work and
Yeah.
you know, they're gonna buy groceries in our town. They're gonna go to our restaurants. So it'd be interesting just to see what kind of data Replica has from that.
Yeah, I don't think Replica captures Airbnb data at this time. But I would have to double check with our customer service rep. But something we're looking at maybe from even a marketing perspective is maybe we could have a goodie bag in the Airbnbs to like welcome the visitors with something like this with the
Yes.
brochure. So those
I
are the
just wrote
kind of
that
like
down.
marketing things we can start
Absolutely.
to work on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I
Yeah.
would think, I don't know if, I'm sure it's something without divulging personal information. I'm sure Rob could probably just let us know, over the last 6 months, what percentage of occupancy he's had. Cause I'm sure it's
And the
pretty
purpose
easy
of
to,
the,
for the Airbnb.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably be pretty easy for him to look into
Mhm.
for us.
I'm thinking of new teacher orientation or just at the beginning of the school year. Something that also to let our staff at the district know what we have to offer. Because again, I think a lot of them come to work and go home, right? They
Right.
don't have a lot of time, obviously, during the day. They're in a
Exactly.
classroom with students most of the time. So they don't have the opportunity to really get out. But if we can, share that information, they may stop here versus heading back home and grabbing what they need.
I think that's a really good idea. And like you said, there's more than just teachers, but that's a good
Yeah.
example
Yeah.
of, because like my boutique, for example, is on the square. I have teachers at Eagle Heights, which is on the north end of town. They probably just go up 169. I will get at the end of the school year, they come in because they got a gift card and they didn't even know that we had
Yes.
a downtown.
Yes.
So
Yes.
at one point, we had a couple people from central office that would give welcome packages to the teachers at orientation, but I feel like maybe that's dropped off. Maybe somebody
Yeah.
changed or whatever, and that's fine. But I do think that the brochure would be a really good idea.
Okay. Yeah. Something at least to let them know what we have to
Mhm.
offer here.
Yeah.
Campers at Smith's Fork, where do they show up in this list?
So what they don't show up since it's not in the city limits.
So Smith's Fork's
Mhm.
not in the city limits.
So that's probably why
Yeah.
this recreation number
That's what I was-
is so low. Cause that's what, it's not saying the full story. It's just gonna capture what's in city limits.
Mhm.
Well,
Um,
and outside of Replica, like Alicia alluded to, and I'm sure Matt can find out from our camp hosts. I mean, I know we're full. I know he provides updates to the Parks and Rec Committee.
Mhm.
And we can get some of that data that helps us, because I'm sure that there's dollars that are being spent that we don't know about, right? I mean, because and I think as we get more folks interested in delivery and in that, they may order from there or whatever. I mean, it's just, there's so many different avenues of dollars that we get and flow that we don't even realize outside of our day to day.
Yeah.
And I think that,
Yeah, and we're open to like passing things out if there's like a discount or if someone wants to advertise that they have delivery. We're happy to put something together to give visitors. It's more of like giving everyone a fair opportunity to submit something.
That's
So.
great.
Any other questions on Replica?
I don't have anything.
Okay,
Yeah, that recreation number really kills me because
It's
that's
just-
not,
yeah.
that's not at all
right.
capturing.
I think the shopping is a reflection of that. I mean, a lot, obviously, you see how many trailered boats are stopping at Casey's and,
Mhm.
the even price chopper.
Yes.
So I think that's a reflection of some of that number.
Mhm.
I agree.
Mhm. And like, I was a little disappointed when I found out about our pop-up events like farmers market or a Main Street event. It's not capturing that visitor data because it's not a longstanding business
Mm,
for them.
interesting.
So it's like, when I would look at the Main Street event for visitors, our spend wasn't as high as I expected it to be,
Right.
because they weren't tracking that information. So I think there's some better software out there to help us link the data with,
Yeah.
what's going on. That's. We want to move on to the next.
Yes, I'm good.
one? Okay. So the next one on the list is continuation of our discussion last time. Just to remind everyone, we reviewed the strategic plan and the comprehensive plan. And I sent out the link to that dashboard for the comprehensive plan. The themes that emerged from our last discussion was really focusing on networking and building relationships in the Northland, not just specifically in Smithville. Partner when applicable. We have multiple community groups. It's always better to do things together. Specifically focusing on marketing. I really liked the idea that came out from last time of we have two approaches. One specifically for tourism and visitors and getting people attracted to our businesses, and then also for development. And then again, review opportunities to leverage off Smithville Lake for economic development. I wanted to provide the update. We are reviewing the lease, the core lease, and seeing what can actually happen on that land. And I know the ADUs came up at the last meeting, and it will be an upcoming planning and zoning item sometime before the end of the year. So,
For which land?
just our ADU policy in general.
Okay,
Yeah, and then this is the land of like where the campground is.
Okay.
At the last meeting, it was talked about if like there could be a store or some kind of
right.
retail down there. So we just have to review that lease.
Would we be able to capture the sales tax?
We are in discussions with the Corps to annex Smithville Lake into Smithville, but that's an ongoing thing with the Corps.
That would be a good thing.
It's been a multi-year waiting period, so,
Mhm.
yeah.
Because we're kind of stretched north and south
Mhm.
and we're pretty thin.
Yep, we're long and skinny.
It's part of Smithville. It is in Platte County, isn't it?
Yes, we have a little
How
bit.
far
in
into Platte County does it go? Any idea?
Oh, it's just, it's
I
a
would just say a
little.
couple miles.
Yeah,
couple
Gina, I was gonna
miles.
say, if you were,
Yeah.
wanted to pull Google up and just type City of Smithfield, we can see the boundaries.
No,
Generally, Google
but
will.
It's not very far is what I thought. So there's expansion opportunities. If we could annex east and west would be a good thing.
Mhm.
The lake would be outstanding.
The lakes, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
The lakes in Clay County, but isn't like most of the land, isn't that federal land? Isn't it Army Corps?
Yes.
Correct.
So there's like, it'll probably never show up on any type of replica data. If
No,
it's,
it's that out of geo breakdown of when, if you remember that, since we look at city data.
I know you're looking, sometimes you have to go to search Google Maps and just type it's, I know it's counterintuitive to type Smithville, Missouri, but Google.
Yes. Oh, I know, sorry.
Part of Smithville Lake's gotta be.
There you go, there's your
Yeah,
boundaries.
it's in Clinton.
There's your boundaries.
Mhm.
There you go.
So this is when,
No straight lines or not.
No.
I don't think you'll lose them if you, as long as you don't click, if you just scroll in. I think you can. See, so yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It is very, very interesting.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
Cedar Creek is in,
Cedar Lakes. yeah.
Cedar Lakes,
Yeah.
yep, after that, it's, Cedar Lakes is in, yep. So our boundaries are very
It's very interesting because
wonky.
where my house is located is in that little jet where it's not included. I'm not in city limits.
Mhm.
Right there off of KK, just north of KK. Isn't that
Yeah, I
funny?
live on Quail Ridge, not Smithville, but the back line to the west was.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's an interesting little,
Mhm.
Little picture.
Yep.
Opportunities.
Yes.
Even if it's not Smithville Lake, there's opportunity.
So I will open it up to you all, if you're able to look at the comprehensive plan dashboard and had any specific action items, or if there's any specific action items you'd like the group to work on.
Gina, it's Adam.
Hey.
I went through the dashboard and, I mean, it looks good. I guess my only question would be, there's actually the level three priority is a higher priority level than the ones, I'm assuming, but
Correct.
yeah, it's interesting because it looks like the strategy is to tackle the higher priorities because those actually have more in green. Those, the level threes have
Mhm.
more green than the level one. So was that the more strategy is to tackle put resources towards the level three priorities? Because those are like maybe a heavier lift and leave the low hanging fruit for later, like those little priority ones.
I don't know if there was an strategy necessarily for those. I think some of those is like, especially for the ongoing, we're like maybe to start those sooner than later. But there was a higher priority, we did want to make sure we accomplish those sooner rather than later.
That makes sense.
I looked at the dashboard, just looked at strengthen business and economic development, 0 to 3 years. So
Mhm.
I'm kind of like, you had what's the higher priority, what's the shortest time period? And there were only 2 that were 3 thumbs up. I guess that's a thumbs up.
Yeah, the thumbs up is the
Going
priority.
ongoing. Going ongoing. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, 3 thumbs up, higher priority.
Mhm.
And I almost wonder if there isn't some thought about moving the ongoing into something. I mean, it's like it's far out and you can't.
So basically,
Like, SB
Mhm.
one, 7 to 10 years. But when I first glanced at it, I looked at it wrong.
so sometimes the ongoing, that's like, we're not gonna be able just to check a box with that. It's gonna be something we're gonna have to revisit from year to year. So it's not like okay, we want to do the South Employment Overlay District, check, we did it. These are more ongoing of like developing things to help businesses. One of those is to continue to annually dedicate city funds to support Smithville's Main Street program. So obviously that's a year-to-year thing.
It's interesting, Adam, we just talked about a few minutes ago, and I'm looking at this again. It's line 38, strengthen business economic development, was explore strategies and opportunities to support Airbnb and other short-term rental activity, enhance Smithville's hospitality infrastructure, and capture visitor spending. And that's exactly what we're talking about.
Mhm.
And part of that movement was adopting the ordinance in November of 23 regarding short-term rentals. So we understand how many we have, where they're licensed. It was just interesting because I'm in real estate. I did see one of the short-term rentals go up for sale, but it was one of the first ones actually here in Smithville, just right around the corner here. But for the most part, we've got one. I mean, you just look at the geographical locations, and we've got downtown, we've got Harbor, Harbor. Let's see, not Harbor View, but Harbor Lake. There's one in Harbor Lake. I don't know if there's any in some of the other subdivisions, but it would be, again, I think Rob will probably be able to give us some insight by not necessarily sharing confidential data, but sharing who the zip codes are, who the visitors are, how many come to visit. It excites me the most just because I think if we can get these in our Airbnbs, I'll give you an example. Marjorie was walking the other night and one right around the corner from us. She started talking, hey, what's this town like? Do I have to worry about dogs being off leashes? Do I have to worry about the neighborhood? So, when we start to engage, when these visitors start to engage with us, And if anybody knows my wife, she's pretty quiet, but she's becoming more and more extroverted these days. That's an opportunity for us to share about our town. So they're here, they're visiting, and so that's just realized that that's on there. I knew it was, but it's cool to see it. So
So with the numbers of Airbnbs, are you saying, or can we conclude that if the number of Airbnbs increased, would the market support it? And would that drive more business to Smithville proper?
it could, but I think what I'm saying is we've got to figure out a way to capture some sort of what's the economic impact? We know
Right.
it's there.
Why are they here? What are,
Yeah,
right?
what
And
are
then
they
is he
doing?
Family, are they here for a wedding, right? Or,
Yeah, whether it be weddings, whether it be a sporting event, whether it be
Yeah.
the lake, whether it be work for work. And we may not be able to go to that drill down into that detail, but certainly, what I'm just saying is from an economic development standpoint, let's begin to understand, what we can without violating any confidentiality or, privacy. So that's.
Could you create a tiny home community that's a Airbnb community?
I think we just have to look at the ordinances and understand, what's in place, but
Yeah.
certainly not out of the question. But,
Not an ordinance that comes to mind that would restrict that you're aware of, or?
I don't think there is one because Adam and I met with Jack Hendricks, probably about within the last year to discuss tiny homes. And I think at the time that there wasn't, but
They generally fall under either like RV rules, like because of the way those tiny homes, they're usually on wheels, or they're usually allowed under like manufacturing, like manufactured homes. So usually most towns already have an ordinance addressing that. And I think that's what he said is like that you could roll in a tiny home under like a manufactured home because they're similar enough.
Yeah. Take the chassis out from underneath it or take the wheels off, becomes a manufactured home.
The other one that inadvertently, I guess we're doing it is, I don't know if this matches up. I always use Excel data sheets of line 39, but again, this was under strengthened business and economic development. Consider undertaking a city marketing campaign and emphasizing the recreational activities associated with the lake. We're doing it with a campground now. We're trying to do it with the lake. And so, it's fun to see this.
That looks like it could be moved to yellow after
I do too.
with the brochures. I think that should probably be updated at least to yellow. I don't know about green, but that definitely, I think it's no longer red.
Right. I'll have to check with Jack. I think we update the dashboard on a quarterly basis. So that's one of the updates that we can provide.
This is just.
Yeah, so basically in the comp plan, you have those really big goals, and then at the end, there's a big punch list of all of the action items. So the dashboard has all of those action items. So a lot of this is partnerships with the chamber to connect businesses. So that's a lot of the work that the chamber is already doing. And then how the EDC can help that, like we've started doing the lunch and learns. So there's a lot we're already doing. It's just putting it on paper that it's happening.
From a partnership standpoint, how do we interface with the Kansas City Area Development Council?
So we are a member, and then mostly that relationship comes from, they'll share someone's interested in doing Project Bluebird and looking for XYZ. So really it's more on the development side.
Like, I was on their website and it had counties listed and had cities listed, didn't have Smithville as listed as a city,
Okay,
just had the county.
I'll just check on that.
Yeah.
Another one I know we've got coming up in August. I think we're confirmed to hear from Matt from the workforce development, but this one was identifying and collaborate with local employers and educational providers to provide workforce development, training and entrepreneurship programming through the Chamber of Commerce, establish working committees, et cetera. So that's coming up. So we're going to get a good idea. And I think Matt will share not only what's going on kind of statewide, Clay County, but he can even drill down and give us some specifics on workforce development for Smithville. So
At this point in time, do we know what we need for workforce?
I'd look to Carol for some insight just because you're working with us.
What workforce, right? There's,
Yeah.
Right.
we don't have the employers here to
So that's kind of my point.
develop.
That was
Right,
kind of my point.
So,
I mean,
Yeah.
Price Chopper employs a lot of people, but there's a lot of,
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, when you look at employees, our school district, the
School
city of
district, right, yeah.
Smithville, I believe some of the restaurants have some, that's part-time. I mean, but whether it be part-time equivalent or full-time equivalent, it's still an employee. There's still dollars being generated. I'm trying not to get too far into the weeds, but I'll give you an example. On the Airbnb, a gal was cleaning one of our Airbnbs and we've had, again, I think there's been a lot of uptick recently for whatever reason in all of them. And she said, this is exciting. I'm cleaning these and I'm able to put my kids through soccer and extra activities and things like that. Now, I forgot to ask her, is it Smithville soccer or is it another soccer? But the point is that we're generating income, we're generating jobs through all these opportunities. And we got to celebrate those and figure out how to measure them.
we also, I mean, we have to continue to be competitive, right?
Mhm.
As far as wage, to keep those employees. We also have to provide housing that's affordable for, for those staff members that are here. So
Yep.
it wouldn't surprise me if somebody who's, working in that career area, it's not a high paying, job. They're probably, it wouldn't surprise me if they weren't living in Smithville.
any idea how many people are employed at the cannabis facility?
30, I believe.
Is it?
Mm.
Yeah.
That's a good number for Smithville. If we had several businesses like that employed 30 plus or minus.
Absolutely.
What else can we grow indoors?
Well, there's actually a lot you can grow indoors.
Just make some more
Hey,
facilities.
you'd be surprised. Yeah, you get into a whole vegetable flower production system with quote unquote greenhouses, but they don't have to be greenhouses or temporary buildings. They can be can't think of the term for it now, but hoop barns.
Hydroponics.
Yeah.
Hydroponics.
That's right. It'd be interesting to see if there was even a market for that and how to distribute. Hen House, I think advertises, of course, we don't have a Hen House north of the river now. But in Hy-Vee talks about how much produce they buy within 150 miles of Kansas City. So
I do have an example. I don't know how pertinent it is, but I guess people that make their own chili sauce, a lot of them raise their own peppers hydroponically. And then they cultivate their peppers and they crush them and create their own signature hot sauce. So when you go and you look at all those brands of hot sauces, that's a lot of them are like small people just hydroponically growing peppers. I don't know if there's a commercial viability, but it happens.
Yeah, the cost of ground is gonna be a limiting factor to make something economically viable, because Dan, what would an acre of ground around Smithville cost? Or just-
Yeah, no, it's absolutely right. I mean, we're looking at fodder feed systems and food boxes through shipping, the containers are growing because what's happening is, our agriculture land is being compressed through development or whatever. I mean, I don't want to get on away from this, but we've lost 880 million acres since 2017 of grazable land. And that's pretty significant. And then you think about what's turning into development around here or turning from pasture to tillable but looking through, just continue to look through this, I noticed that on the actual comprehensive plan, you can go 0 to 3 years, ongoing 3 to 7, but I was just continue to look at metrics was something, how we, measure this. Gina, I mean that, I think something we've discussed that was online. Where did I just see that?
Are you looking at the dashboard?
I'm looking at the dashboard, yes.
I've got mine filtered down, so I don't have that many lines.
Yeah.
I could widen it out, I suppose.
I guess, yeah, you can filter it, can you, to what's just strategic? Okay,
Yeah, I
can't
did-
run the
I just got
macro. I
through
wonder
people
why.
Business and economic development, and I clicked on the year buttons to see
Yeah.
what was the nearest term and what was ongoing.
That second one, we kind of touched on it, you know, when you were talking about workforce development, but attracting appropriate industry types. You know, what would be successful in Smithville? What would provide that boost in our workforce to keep those people in town?
And how much money would it take? What would they have to earn in an annual salary to be able to do that? Because we're gonna be competing with Liberty to Platte City and south into Kansas City. Does that
Good
mean,
news is we don't have to compete with Platte City because their taxes and their cost of living substantially higher. than
is that
Smithville.
right? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Is it Platte County or Platte City specific?
both.
Interesting.
Platte County has the highest taxes in the state.
Goodness. Well, there's an advantage we ought to be promoting, isn't it?
But they continue to
And
grow
they
though.
Continue to grow. and
Yeah.
Grow and grow.
Yeah, they do.
But a serious bedroom community, they have
Right.
essentially zero manufacturing.
Right?
Right.
Good. Good point.
Dan, I'm curious, I don't mean to call you out, but I'm curious your thoughts on that question. What type of industry would be successful in our community? Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, that's a fair question, Carol. You know, I think that's why we're really looking to see if we can develop some continued industrial. It'd be great to have a manufacturing. Obviously, there's always been talk of, we have a partnership with Northland Career Center, but it'd be great to have something in Smithville, but we have it in Clay County. I think the data center, we're right on the edge of that. I mean, you look at the high paying jobs, again, they're not going to be a lot,
No.
but they're still very high paying jobs. But I think it's just reaching out. I mean, if it was in a perfect world, I'd love to have a manufacturer of some sort, whether it be equipment, whether it be automotive. I mean, the automotive industry, John knows this, there's so many moving parts and pieces. It's just not making the vehicles. So I think it's identifying those manufacturers, and hopefully at some point we're on the map and we're attracted. But John, I mean, do you have anything to add on that? I mean, this is,
The automotive industry is it's an absolutely exploding right now. Even all the negative press that it gets
Yeah.
about, you know, no chips and not being able to manufacture. You can, all I can say is I'm very happy that, Blue Springs bought, Smithville Ford. They're going to inject a lot of cash.
Awesome.
And I believe that that alone is going to generate a tremendous amount of tax for the city of Smithville.
Awesome.
You know, it remains to be seen how much expansion they do. They're a little landlocked, but
Yeah.
I believe that's going to be a boost. To Dan's point, there was a point in time when Chewy was looking for a north distribution center.
Okay.
I've reached out to them, hoping,
Yeah.
you know, something a little bit smaller than the one in Belton.
Okay.
You know, we don't need some 25,000 square foot building, but we have land south, and the amount of truck traffic that it generates can be pretty daunting, but with the freeway right there,
Yeah.
we wouldn't see it downtown.
No, it wouldn't.
And they've already done the development to 169,
Yeah.
so, you know,
Yeah.
win-win.
Our access to the interstate right there is so, I mean, I think that's gotta be attractive.
And manufacturing, can somebody live in Smithville, $22 an hour, full-time? That's a decent wage.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't have that answer.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, when I called the Kansas City or the animal health corridor, I was thinking about distribution for animal health products. You know, something light, you know, in a sense. But a distribution center like Chewy, since our taxes are lower, then that might be a draw.
I'm probably stating the obvious, and you've heard me say it before. Until that land is shovel ready and it's finally, first of all, it was the exchange of that land for years was owned by 3 or 4 families, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, wish I had the foresight, or my family had the foresight to buy the land. But the development in the infrastructure that's going into place with this, I'm very excited about any development in Smithfield, but south of 92 there, not only across from McDonald's, Fairview North, but Fairview South, you begin to see the machines work. There's a pretty significant housing provider. I don't know the details, but coming into that area, but there's not just gonna be housing, multifamily, it'll be commercial. But that has to be in place sometimes years before we attract. So we're sitting here with our wish list, and I think we will see this, but as we see that land get developed and we get the 144th Street sewer down, I know it's been talked about for years, but we get that implemented, we get this land that was just raw land pasture now to development. It is now utilizing the highest and best use of that, and then we will begin to see some interest. The interest is here. It's just having the ability for them to be, okay, let's sign on the line, let's build versus let's wait 1, 2, 3 years. But we're seeing a pretty significant pace now. And so I think we just continue to ride that momentum. That's just my encouragement.
Awesome. I love that.
Let's flip that around and then say, well, what land is available that's ready, shovel ready? Is it mostly retail space? Like I look at Price Chopper and that land to the north of that parking lot's just completely undeveloped.
It's ready. I mean, the infrastructure is there. When I mean by infrastructure,
ready.
water, sewer, streets,
Yeah. So
curbs,
what about over
gutters.
by the cannabis facility? Is that land? ready for-
It's getting, I mean, it's getting there with the improvement of the waste. I forget, it's not a waste center, but it's a facility. that-
It's a transfer.
Transfer station and it's been slow growth, but CDL trucking schools they still have the vision. They're just gotta get the retention pond in, and then they're gonna get fencing and rock up and begin. But yeah, so that's what I mean when I say shovel ready is you
Yeah.
have streets, curbs, gutters, water, sewer, electricity.
So we don't have to wait for South Overlay to get done. We've got land available.
We got land
So
available.
is it
Yeah.
in square feet or is it in acres?
Well, in most commercial, it's going to be square feet. I
But
mean, that's,
my point was, is it small?
no,
Yeah,
I
or
mean,
we
there's
do we
53
have to-
acres on Fairview South. There's 7.5 acres on Fairview North. As you know, that's opening up next week.
Yeah.
If it's not fully leased, it's darn near fully leased.
What about on that area where the cannabis facility is? Do you
That's
think-
industrial park.
How-
That is industrial park. It's
Yeah,
being
that-
developed.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. How much is there? How much?
10, 12 acres, I
Okay,
think
so not
roughly.
a-
Yeah.
Not a big plot.
But it's still decent size.
Is there any industrial besides where the cannabis facility is? The shovel ready, that's ready to move
Yeah,
into?
there is. Yeah, the lots are ready to go.
Okay.
It's just a matter of, and then,
Besides the cannabis facility?
correct,
Okay.
correct.
To me, that's a lower hanging fruit. We may not live long enough to do South
Weed
Over.
business.
Yeah, with South Overlay, but if we got land ready, why don't we?
But it's what you have to be able to attract the business to come here. And what do businesses look at? Is there a workforce?
Becomes the chicken or the egg.
That's
type
what I was gonna
scenario.
say, cart before the horse
Yep,
type thing.
yep.
It's, yeah.
Whenever a business looks to build, they look at demographics. And part of that demographics is everything from income to traffic flow, to ingress, egress, to workforce, to the school system, there's a lot that goes into planning to putting a business in, because obviously they're investing millions of dollars and they don't want it to
Yep.
fail.
Yeah. Do we know of the kids that graduate from high school that go on to college or go into trades that move back to Smithfield?
I'm not sure if they have, I know they track them after high school, but I don't know if if we have that data.
I lived out in small town, rural America. There's 1,500 people in town when school was in session. Their biggest challenge was all the kids graduate, go to college, and never come home.
Yeah. I know as
But
far
then-
as.
But then there was a group of them that like in a 3-year period, like 10 young couples came back.
Yeah.
Well, that's a huge impact for a small community.
I know as far as the school district, we do they have things in place to, anybody who's interested in education, for instance, working in the school district. They do a really good job of recruiting and keeping them, interested in keeping, contact with them, but I don't know otherwise how deep that data is.
I do know that some of the data that was presented at several of the Board of Aldermen meetings was we need affordable housing because the students that are graduating and getting jobs, entry-level jobs, can't afford to live here.
Mm-hmm.
So they're being forced to move to Kansas City or places that actually have apartments.
Right. Yeah, that's what we have a lack of.
We're on our way though. We're not there yet.
Right.
All right. We're counting on you, Dan.
Well, I'm just the avenue of communication.
All on your shoulders now, Dan.
Sorry, put you on the spot there.
That's all right, but Gina, or Alicia, is this kind of what we wanted to accomplish? So is looking at this dashboard and revisiting this is.
I think so. I mean, I think most of the threes are gonna be the ongoings, right?
Mm.
So we've kind of got the ball rolling on some of those, so it just makes sense to continue that momentum and then snack on some low hanging fruit in the meantime. We just need to figure out what exactly that is and how we want to do it. That's what I have.
Affordable housing, so
Mhm.
if you, what's a low-end house cost here in Smithville on average? Is it 250? Is it less?
Yeah,
Oh,
I wish there was
Okay,
250 back
far.
there.
So I think I saw a 900 square foot home down here for 250. this
Yeah,
week,
yeah,
so
that's
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 That's what I want.
kind of the entry.
Mm.
A lot of it, I mean, I think we're working as fast as we can. I wish we could work faster. I mean, ideally, because we need that. But it is looking at our zoning, our ADUs, I mean, all of that I think is coming up on the calendar for planning and zoning. I don't want to drift off into the weeds there, but and I think it's not going to be one thing. I mean, we all think it's going to be this one thing that's going to solve it. I don't think so. I think it's going to be a multitude of things. It could be ADUs. It could be, I don't like the word tiny homes, but homes in that 400 to 800, 900 square foot. It's going to be more multifamily, there's, I was talking to a developer the other day. He's hoping to have some, senior housing in the future. And I mean, what that looks like is just, again, affordable or attainable. We like to use the word more attainable, but it's going to have to be multitude of things that happen. We're in a new era where I don't think the prices are going down ever, unfortunately. Land goes up. I mean, right, the price of land, all the things associated with it. But we just need more housing, but it needs to be a combination of
110
housing.
Main Street has some apartment built into that, doesn't it?
I believe so. Yeah. There's.
Yeah, the 110 Smithville has
It's more-
85 or 86 units.
More
How many?
apartment than not.
It's either 85 or 86
well,
apartment
quite a few.
units. Mhm.
So
Yeah.
would that fall into an affordable category, or we probably don't know, but they're gonna be smaller.
Yeah,
I think
they
they
range from
gave
s-
examples
yeah.
in the TIF meetings of the sizes and the cost.
Remember what they were?
I think it's all relative, but they'll have.
Between
studios-
13 and 15.
Okay,
10 and
thank
15.
you.
Studios to 2 bedrooms. I don't think there's very many 2 bedrooms, but studios, I think we're near 1,000. So.
And I know you hear the rent prices increasing here. They're all over. I mean,
Yeah, it's-
it's a fact that I don't think we could ever see wages rise fast enough to keep up with inflation or housing, but it's just a fact of life that we all deal with. And I think it's just having more options and we're going to get there. I mean, there's going to be some things break open here in the next few months to a year or so that I think will give some options versus just single family or apartments. So
I agree.
Is there multifamily, the Fairway properties, is there multifamily down
There's
there?
some-
yeah, Fairview South, yes, there is planned. I think conceptually the site plan has been approved, but I don't think anything else has been through. But there are some things I think coming from what I hear from the developer
Okay.
through planning and zoning. So just that's the first place to watch is planning and zoning, and
Stay
then
tuned on that. Mhm.
I had a thought and I lost it.
Who put up the Clayview, isn't it called Clayview up there on W and
Clay Creek.
Clay Creek,
Mhm.
all those white, who put that up? Who built that? Anybody know?
I don't know what developer that was.
Yeah.
I understand somebody that owns it's out in California, like a private equity or a REIT now, but I don't know who developed that.
Hmm.
That's a lot of housing. I mean, it's
Mhm.
1,500 a month or was. I
Mhm.
haven't looked higher, yeah,
Yeah.
was, yeah,
I just had a client that moved from there that moved into a home. So
okay. So is it pushing two?
I think there's 16, 17, 50, close to 1,800 now.
They're three bedroom townhomes,
Mhm.
2 and 3
Payment,
bedroom.
a
Yeah.
nice house payment.
Well, it
Mhm.
used to be.
Used
Yeah.
to be,
Well,
it's, yeah,
that's
it's
true.
not a
I-
house
I-
payment
right, I
anymore.
guess I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So go, I still have questions, sorry.
Go ahead.
So go back to the industrial property that's available, that's ready to, somebody to move into. When an inquiry comes into the city, does that go to Jack? Is that Jack's responsibility? Okay.
Mhm. Yep, it goes to Jack.
And then I believe Jack reaches out to the developer if that individual has not.
Mhm.
Correct. And the city has that on record. They have all the site plans and lot numbers and what's typically available. So I think through the development department, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's how it works usually.
Yes, if we get an inquiry about anything, it goes through the development department.
So do we have a promotional or marketing effort to promote that ground? Or are we waiting for people to call us?
No, I mean, I'd be glad to, Steve, if you want, I know the developer and I can certainly get the most recent information from him, what's available. If you are interested in that,
I'm
that's
just curious as to how that process works.
right.
So are you saying it would most likely go through if a query came to the city, goes to Jack, Jack gets hold of the developer, or somebody just gonna reach the developer directly?
Correct. They're going to reach the developer correctly. They're going to come through the city, or they could come through a third party commercial real estate practitioner or that to do that. So, or they may be internal, right? They may be looking at internal. There's a lot of data online through CoStar. You've heard of LoopNet or some of those things that it's amazing when you put a listing up, you can see who's looking at it across the country. You can't necessarily know the company, but you can,
Right.
and so that's happening all the time. And we've got, again, developers from the Northland that have met with the city or met with mayor or met with Jack. They're happening every day. It's just kind of what's going to take to kind of get them over the line. Sometimes it's something we can do and sometimes it's not. It's just a matter of a decision, a business decision.
Yep.
I think some of these businesses too, they might just be holding off for just a drop of a 0.5 percentage point from the Federal Reserve, because that makes lending a lot, those macro factors could also, we could just be setting things up and then once the Federal Reserve, hopefully they ease at some point, then it could, spark all of that stuff coming down the pipe. But they might just be holding off a little bit because of the environment with bank lending.
Mhm. Any more questions? Input, anything?
I'm sure I do, but I'll hold off.
No, go ahead.
No, I think I'm done for now.
I like the promotional packet idea. I think that's good.
What do we do with this?
Yeah, what's our next step now that we're
An
kind of,
item.
yeah.
I really think it's focusing on, there were multiple emerging themes from last time. So is there a certain focus we want to start on sooner rather than later? Specifically, I mean, we've been talking, you brought it up, Steve, about marketing to industrial developers or businesses that would be interested in that. So would our first step be more focused on marketing in general? Last time we kind of divvied up based on what people's interests were, so we can do that. It's really up to you all.
Thinking.
I think my strengths are more on the industrial / business side, trying to do something from a promotional standpoint, making calls or something. It's kind of like, I don't know really where to start. So maybe there's somebody provide some guidance and say, we'll go fish in this pond,
Yeah.
or.
Right.
This kind of jumps ahead to the next item C,
Mhm.
but I think I had sent did you have a chance to look at the Clinton,
Yes.
Missouri? Their, the tab on their website for economic development, they actually had a pretty cool, page where you could type in, for developers to type in information they were seeking and it would bring up options available.
Mhm.
I think it said it was the first option like that in the state of Missouri,
Mhm.
on a website.
So.
Mhm. I was just trying to brainstorm, smaller lake towns, and Clinton was the first thing that came to mind. They're around 9,000 population. Their main landing page for their EDC said it was broken, but I just kept clicking tabs until something else came up. And
You said Clinton County.
just Clinton, Missouri, not Clinton County,
Missouri.
down, south of us towards Springfield.
I have it
Is it coming up okay?
sharing on my laptop. Okay.
And then in the menu,
Yeah.
Gina, there, if you go to the menu selection, highlight over, pull down to economic development.
Does that pull anything up?
It did actually, development priorities, it did, if you scroll down, it actually worked for mine, but you gotta scroll all the way down.
For this one? Or just
I
the
just
tab?
hit, it seemed like once I clicked on development and then I scrolled,
It may come up on that. I think I went through another tab, but I think it comes on this page
Yeah.
too. Maybe down by that
Well, my
building.
battery might die, but
yeah, and they do have, it looks like that the link is broken for the economic development, but
yeah.
You got people, but you got.
Yeah, building calculator, that's what it was
Mhm.
down there on the bottom.
So.
it's interesting, availability.
And then
Wonder
they
where it's
didn't
pulling
have the
from.
link for the building, the actual calculator. So I was wondering where that.
So it's interesting when you pull up available buildings,
say too, but
I'm
it's-
sure where that's, I'm not even sure where they're pulling that data. Maybe Gina,
Right.
you could reach out to their.
Yeah, I can definitely reach out
their
to them and
committee,
get
but it
more.
pulls the city of Clinton and it pulls what they have available.
Mhm.
And there's some data sheets.
Yeah.
Are these? Wow.
I kind of felt like I
That's
struck
proactive.
gold when I got that.
Even down to the smallest building, yeah.
I know as I looked at a lot of different websites, I found a recurring theme that they gave a lot of information on that landing page about why this city.
Yes.
Kearney was their proximity to the airport, to downtown, to Arrowhead Stadium. We've got all of that. So that when you got to their landing page, your interest was really piqued. And then all the other tabs they had, they did, well, as well as why Smithville, the proximity, the lake, the school district, how great it is. But they also gave demographics.
Hmm.
I'd like with demographics like you talked about, not only census demographics, but average household income, average price of a house on the market and so forth. But other demographics you could add on are the demographics that we talked about that people want to know, what's your traffic at lunch hour, all of that. But they all, every one that I looked at, all had a link for sites for sale, business for sales, rental spaces available for rent. So you are circumventing having to drive here to find that, or or wait in line for someone in the office to call you. It's all there. They had links for building permits, everything you'd want to know right there, and then to contact the development office. So I looked at that, and we talk about our goals for industrial. And I think the first place to start with marketing is our very own economic development page, that you're able to get information out to people. I know maintaining it would be a lot of work as things opened up, leasing spaces and so forth, but it's right there for anyone to look at that's looking to maybe expand from Platte City and wants to maybe come to Smithville, what's available, all in one place.
Yeah.
It looks like they have a platform, called Location One, at least Kearney does, so that would be something that we would have to, look out. But I definitely agree that it would be nice to drive people straight to the information.
Getting all that information in one location will be
Yeah.
difficult.
Well,
though. It's
and
not
that-
like
and
you
that's-
can
that's a-
access it from one
Mhm.
place.
That's a fantastic idea. And then maybe we
Yeah.
just start with one and then, start walking with another and another. But it looks like there's some kind of feed that it pulled in. We were just looking at like the available buildings. There's got to be some kind of data feed from some source that shows them for sale. I don't think that's all just manual, but
But
Yeah.
not only did they show, they had a map. So you could go and you could click on the map and see where it was located within the town and the picture. And then you could also link it to the broker that's handling that deal.
Yeah, well, I know Erica would love if there was a landing page for rentals available, because that's a question that came in to the chamber office daily.
Business or home or both?
Both. I mean,
Okay.
it was constant and there was there was a conversation about trying to put together this kind of listing, but then it was just so daunting because where will we access that information? But yeah, that'd be great.
And to update it, who would be doing that constantly?
Right, that's-
Will we need an intern?
That's what artificial intelligence is being used for now. If you actually hire like a new developer, they're getting trained in AI systems. That's what the AI does. The AI, once you set it up, it'll automatically go and grab all that stuff and just push it.
Lisa, Gina, there is a contact through Greater Clinton Area Chamber of Commerce, it looks like, but it looks like Ezra, maybe ESRI, it's
Oh,
pulling.
Esri, it's
yeah,
GIS. Mhm.
So it's pulling data, not only on population, but it's pulling, it'd be interesting to see how they pull a particular piece of land for sale,
Yeah,
whether that's,
yeah, it would be interesting because some places have their own layer data like we do. So definitely would reach out to them on how they're getting that information. But
as a EDC, what do we start with? I mean, that's the biggest question.
mhm.
Based on Pat's recommendation, do we start with, we obviously have a landing page. We don't have much on it.
Right.
But then do we start with properties for sale or do we start with population in GIS data? I mean, I'm just putting that out there. I don't have an answer, so I don't know. But if we start with something and kind of build on it,
I think something high level with some hyperlinks underneath each thing, or is that too much of a pain? No,
No, it's just making sure the information won't go out of date.
gotcha.
Like once it's, my laptop died. Once it's immediately like on the website. Cause that's the biggest thing is like, we don't know every time something goes on the market.
Right.
For the city. It's not like every time something goes on the market, we get a building permit or anything like that. So it's just making sure the information is accurate and out there. So it looks like Kearney uses a platform called like Location
Location
One.
one.
Yeah.
There's all
Yeah,
kinds of
so
listings that are.
I'm
for
gonna reach
Location
out
One.
to their economic development coordinator and see what they use and if there's what the price tag on it is
Extra
and how it works.
information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
I like it. But that's from their, what is it, their development council. So that's separate from their Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
That's a whole-
Yeah. So sometimes they have like EDCs are separate entities completely from the city. So they have a different budget and membership than we do. So,
And they
Yeah.
have I mean, it's very active, I know,
yes.
very
Yeah.
active in their community.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So I guess, yeah, if we can just check and see what types of information and pricing and all that to get it added to our website and find out where, if it would be on the main page or under economic development, or I'd like the how do I section under business, or
Yeah.
where it goes.
I think it's one of those things, putting it in multiple places will help
Mm-hmm.
drive more people to it.
So
I agree.
Gina or Alicia, do we need anything formal from the EDC then, or as far as a motion, or just kind of put this into action like we did the
Mhm.
QR code with the marketing? Is that?
Yeah, just being in agreement of what
Mhm.
you'll think would be beneficial for us to add to the website. Or even if there's like a packet of information you think would be nice to have if you were calling somebody, if like, hey, I have all this data in front of me, or I can send it to you. We can always work on something like that as well, just to make sure the information is as accurate as it can be. So.
I think it ought to be a digital packet as much as possible.
Mhm.
And I think probably Jack, I mean, he's gonna know the top 5 or so questions that people commonly ask when they contact him, and then any input you might have as far as what you would be seeking out. It's probably the same as the questions that Jack gets, but
Yeah, the biggest questions are infrastructure.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, most of the stuff that we get from Clay EDC about site interest,
Mhm.
those are a lot of the kind of informational things that they look at for like demographics, employers, things like that.
I think we're going back to that conversation we had last time, though. We've got 2 different levels
Mhm.
of interest. And
Right.
can that information all be in one location, right? And
Mhm.
speak to both of those. You've got your developers and the
Mhm.
interest for that, business development, and then our tourism side of things.
Mhm.
Oh, that's a good development tourism.
Mhm.
Right, but
Mm.
there are some things that are overlapping, of course, as far as information that they would want, and so it looks like it's on this, the Kearney's Development Council page, they've got all of the information there, so,
Mhm.
yeah, we can
Yeah.
use it for both.
Yeah,
Kearney
so,
actually advertises close proximity to Smithville Lake.
Mm-hmm, of course.
yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Closer than
hop, skip,
Carney's
and
proximity to Smithville Lake.
They're a hop, skip, and a jump, and we're just a hop, so there.
Yep, there you go. Hop.
You're closer than you are.
It's really just a tiny hop.
Well, like I mean, like you said, Gina, do we need to do anything, or just kind of, we put it out there what we want to look into?
Yep.
And just try
Yeah.
and make it happen.
Yep, so I'll work on contacting some of the individuals that you guys mentioned, and I'll work on getting some stuff on the website and
Sounds
some
good.
information for you to review for like a packet that we would put on there as well.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do we want to move on to new business? Did I forget anything? Okay, does anyone have any new business?
I did, but I forgot it.
Steve?
I did want to mention before
Oh, yeah, that's right.
we adjourn, Sonny Kreitz, put in her resignation from the EDC. She's really happy to work with everyone, but has some personal things going on, so she has stepped, out of her position. So the vacancy is posted on the website. So once we get some applicants, we'll set up interviews with them and get someone on the board.
Gina, just want to review, that does not necessarily have to be a citizen of Smithville as long as they're a member of the Chamber of Commerce. Is that correct? or is it a
had
requirement?
to
It's a
be a
citizen.
citizen.
of
So you have to be a
Smithville.
citizen of Smithville, okay.
Yeah, for the EDC, yeah.
For
Residency
EDC,
requirement.
residency requirement, okay. I didn't know if there was additional, but
No. Yeah,
Surely
for-
there's some new empty nesters out there whose kids just graduated and they're just longing for some sort of fulfillment. And they're gonna come running to us to help. I feel like it's gonna happen.
Yes, and it's a short term, so this one is
Yeah.
up in October of 24. So if someone just wants to test it out,
Mhm.
see how it goes.
Is there a link on the city's website for them to apply?
Yes,
Okay.
it's the volunteer application.
Okay.
Yep.
yeah, so they fill out the volunteer application, just,
Mm.
it's probably good for everybody to review, because I need to review this. Then, you'll notify the chair, correct?
Mhm.
And then if there's interviews scheduled, you'll
Mhm.
typically have the chair, yourself, and
And you.
government representative,
Yep.
yep, so.
And then we ask for a resume, in addition to their application. And we typically set up an interview and gauge the interest in the EDC and get to know them a little bit more.
And Gina, this is no different than if there was an opening at planning and zoning, parks and rec.
Mhm.
It's
The
the same
interview
process.
process is
Yep.
the same for everybody.
Actively recruit.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you know someone would be interested, definitely let them know we have an opening.
I remembered what I was gonna bring up. Can I bring that up now? So
Yeah.
the Alderman retreat is in June,
Yes, June 13th and 14th.
and then when will EDC, there's gonna be some step after that was gonna engage EDC.
Like a joint retreat with EDC?
Probably a joint work
retreat or-
Joint work, yeah,
session,
sorry, joint work session.
um,
That was the word.
Yes, I need to work with Cynthia, our city administrator, to set a date. Our July 2nd meeting is canceled. So I'm hoping either probably the later July meeting or August, because we're also in the middle of budget prep. So we have lots of work session items already planned, but I'm hoping to get it in some time of those months.
The EDC's planning on meeting then in June, July, and August.
If we have items to discuss.
If we have things to discuss, we had kind of talked about potentially going quarterly, right?
Mhm.
Depending on what all we had to discuss, if there wasn't much content, and with a lot of people traveling and doing things in the summer, if it would even be beneficial for us to meet monthly. So I guess we could.
Yeah, so we definitely have a guest speaker scheduled for the August 28th meeting. But if, other than that, it would be me working on some items for the website and sending it for review. But I don't think I'll be able to pull that around for June, just because it takes a little bit of time to get all that together.
My preference would be to meet monthly, but if we can't get a quorum, then cancel. Rather than, because if we meet quarterly, then when would the next meeting be?
Maybe August.
Yeah. That's my thought.
Anybody else have thoughts on it?
Are the only options either monthly or quarterly? Could it be every other month?
We could do every other month.
Like,
Twice a month?
every other, okay, yeah, so.
No, I do like the idea through the summer of every other month unless we have business, but that again is up to you guys. I do like that every other month option for a bit.
Yeah, that works for me as
I
well.
think Gina's, it gives her, we would like her to work 100% on EDC things, but I think you've got other
Yes. I'm also over
responsibilities within the city
HR.
of Smithville.
HR
so-
department of one also, so.
Are you saying we'd skip June but meet July and August then, Dan?
I mean, I'm fine
we
with
got a
that.
speaker for August.
Yeah, I mean, so that would be, yeah, we'd skip June, July. I guess we'd have to meet in August since we've got it, but again, I'm okay with whatever. This is your EDC. I'm just along for the ride.
I think we could definitely skip June if we know we're not gonna have
Mhm.
that finished. And then maybe see how things are going in July, and maybe talk about that potential joint work session.
Mhm.
And then figure out if we want to do July and August, or if we want to take a break in July also. Do we need to vote on skipping June? No? Okay. All right, so if nobody else has anything, I think we can adjourn.
I'll shut up.
Madam Chair, make a motion to adjourn EDC
right.
meeting.
Who has a second?
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thanks, Adam.